Moonshine Jesus, nobody in the sky. Moonshine Jesus, baby, don't lie. Moonshine Jesus, a surprising delight. Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Hello and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. It is after Holy Week, after Easter, and the show has been resurrected. I'm here today with my good buddy Mark Sandlin. Mark, how you doing, man?
I'm doing better now that we're finally back to doing the show, man. I missed it.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if we can officially call ourselves podcasters anymore.
I don't think so. Yeah. I think we can call ourselves losers, probably. Bunch of losers can't even put out a podcast.
Yeah, we got a tweet on our Twitter account at Moonshine Jesus, and somebody was like, it's been a while. Do you think you might resurrect the podcast sometime soon? And so we actually are going to resurrect the show. We've got a new segment planned for the last one of the show, and we actually have news coming for this summer.
Yes. Big news coming for this summer. We are going to be on the podcast stage at Wild Goose.
Yeah, and so this is a big change because last year we were at our campsite at Wild Goose.
Yes.
And this year we're on the podcast stage. So last year we recorded at midnight, literally midnight.
Yes, we did the Midnight Moonshine Show.
Yeah, at the very, very back of the we were like the kids sitting in the back of the school bus cutting up, basically.
We really were.
Anybody who was there can attest to that, and there are reasons why we never released the last show.
Yeah, it got a little out of hand there.
Yeah. Good people having a good time together. Yeah. But anyway, so this year we're official. I think we had Wild Goose organizers actually come to our midnight show, and I think they probably saw that we were getting out of hand, so they just try to draw us into the fold. So it's not a big honor. It's more like liability prevention.
That's exactly it. I think so.
No, but we're super excited to be a part of it. It's a great festival. And I've been the last 2 years. You've been the last all years.
All but one. All but the first year.
All but one.
Yeah.
So,
and here's the other thing for our listeners, and no one else will know this. But whenever it is that they schedule us to be on stage, we're going to have about 50 giveaways with logos on it for folks for the first 50 folks to show up, so that our listeners will know and they can get there early. Make sure they get theirs.
And we've got even better news about them. We've decided that for the giveaways, we're going to drop our faces off of them, so nobody has to look at us at all times. So we think it's a win-win.
Yeah, you are welcome. You are welcome. We did this because we love you people.
That's right. We love you. We appreciate your listenership. We're not going to force you to look at us.
You don't have to look at us all the time.
Even our silhouettes.
Who wants to do that? David and I don't even do that. We take the mirrors down in our houses because, come on.
It explains a lot about my hair.
I never thought about that, but yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does, right? I know. Apparently I always cut myself when I shave. Anyway, so it's been so long since we sat down and podcast. Man, how are you? I feel like it has been a season.
It feels liturgical season. It has. It's been Easter season, right? No, I'm doing great, man. Things are going really well for me. The new church that I'm at is fantastic. I'm having the best time there. We're learning so much and growing so much together. I encourage anyone to check us out, particularly if you're in the Greensboro area. We're athinkingchurch.org or .com, athinkingchurch.com.
Mark actually has to pay me $5 every time he mentions his church because it's free advertising. But so just keep on.
Okay, all right.
My March has been much less exciting. I spent most of my time saving up for repairing my transmission. So
that's so much fun.
It is. It's so much fun, especially when my wife was actually in your hometown working. And so I was at home without a car. My boys learned how to ride the school bus to and from school, so that was exciting for everybody.
That is exciting.
So excellent. But anyway, so we're looking forward to seeing everybody this summer. We hope you come to the festival. It is a really, really great time. You will get so much more out of it than you will out of our podcast. And as always, we have beverages with us this morning.
Yes.
And since it is this morning, I don't know about you, but I'm drinking some espresso to keep me lively, we shall say, or awake.
Yeah, I'm having the same thing. I'm just having a really darkly brewed coffee. I prefer Italian or French roast. This happens to be French roast, and it's probably the only thing that's keeping me awake at the moment. I have to have my coffee.
I'm saving for new brewing methods because you can only drink so much espresso. I think there's a limit to how much you can drink in a lifetime, and I drink a good 6 to 8.
You've probably already hit that limit.
Yeah. So
all right. So David, another thing that I did over the last little bit is I actually went and saw Superman versus Batman twice.
Yeah, I think you might be the only one who saw it twice.
Yeah, because I'll tell you this. Look, I'm a big superhero fan. I always have been.
Yeah.
I can't remember not being a big superhero fan.
Okay, so did you subscribe to comic books as a kid?
And I went to the local bookstore and bought them.
All right, what were your comics that you got?
Mine were Fantastic Four.
Really?
Oh, I was a big Fantastic Four fan. Daredevil. I was massively about Daredevil. And any comic that had Hawkman or Hawkwoman in it, or Hawkgirl, I loved those characters, and so I was always looking for the places that they were showing up, so I could read more about them.
I was all about the Mighty Thor. I subscribed.
Thor,
It came in my mailbox every single month. It was fantastic. It was great. I loved Thor. I was a total nerd. I got into Norse gods and started buying books about like Odin and crap, and I was the only one in my rural Alabama school that knew much about the Norse gods. So you saw this movie twice.
Yeah, and the reason I saw it twice is because I went the first time, and honestly, I was just like underwhelmed. If anything, I was a little bit put off by the directing. It felt like it was jumping all over the place without reasonable explanation, and you were having to do too much mental work to catch up to what was going on screen. And like, what time period are we in now? Who are we going to be looking at? What's the setting? And there wasn't a lot of help in that. And so
you were like watching an impressionist portrait of Superman and Batman fighting, basically.
Maybe that's one way to look at it. But I just felt like it deserved
Zack Snyder was channeling Claude Monet.
I felt like it deserved another chance, so I went and saw it a second time. And it was better the second time.
Okay, all right.
Did I love it? It was good, though. Yeah. Have you seen it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't impressed. I haven't been impressed with it all that much. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I'm glad you saw it twice, but I don't know if I would drop down the money to see it one more time. But, I mean, it just goes to show you that even a bad superhero movie will get people out there. I mean, it will get people out there spending lots of money to watch this movie. Like, they bring people out. Like, superhero movies are the bread and butter of Hollywood right now. I mean, how many superhero movies do we have coming out in the next
There's month? I think before the end of the year, we're going to get 4 superhero movies, 6 that are sci-fi. Like, if you add Star Wars and stuff, you get 6 kind of major sci-fi superhero.
So we've got Civil War coming out in the Marvel Universe. Right. We got X-Men Apocalypse coming out.
Right.
And Suicide Squad. That looks really good.
Yeah, it does. There's another superhero movie that I'm blanking on right now. But it doesn't. I mean, the real point is we're getting a bunch of them.
Yeah, and it's just every year.
Yes. Yeah, it's an increasing thing. I mean, it's kind of it shows you how much the geek culture is becoming a predominant culture. Because when I was a kid, if you were reading comic books and everything, you were definitely a geek.
See, I had no idea I was a geek at the time. I was that much of a geek. I was completely oblivious to the fact that I was a geek.
You may have been a nerd. I'm just saying. It's starting to sound a little bit like you're a nerd. See, because nerds don't know. They're oblivious.
Okay, then I was clearly a nerd.
Geeks have some self-awareness. They just don't care.
As I walked around with my Norse god mythology.
Oh, yeah, you were a nerd. Never mind. Yeah, I don't think maybe you were. You were a nerd. You were the nerd. I was the geek. It's just very clear at this point.
There was a clear divide between the two of us. That explains so much about our relationship.
It really does at this point. Yeah, there's so much the same, but there's that divide. It's really clear.
Okay, so maybe it's because I was so devoted to. Well, that's gonna make me sound like a pagan, which is nothing wrong with being a pagan. But I was gonna say it's because I was so devoted to Norse mythology.
Not only are you like putting yourself down, you're putting all pagans down.
Yeah.
Way to go, David. We just lost a whole segment of listeners.
We're sorry for all of our pagan listeners. I was not mocking you, but myself. So, but I was pretty well versed in Norse gods for a 6th and 7th grader.
Right.
And so now whenever I see like the rise of these superhero movies and you see the paraphernalia in every store that you go to.
Right.
Get this sense that this has become our modern American mythology. I mean, it's not
Sure.
that dissimilar from, the pantheon of Greek gods. You have all
Right.
these different superhero people, and people really do use them for life lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
I mean, it is interesting that talking about it that way, because where my head went just then was, yeah, with Superman, that's definitely what we end up with. Even though Superman was originally designed by two gentlemen who were Jewish, and they were looking at him as Moses, really. But
Right.
he does come from the sky, like from another place, and Thor does too, and maybe a few others. But the interesting thing is, and this is something maybe we can play with, is that all the rest of the superheroes outside of like Hawkman and Hawkgirl, there are people who become gods, so to speak.
Right.
And that's interesting because when you look back across history, most societies aren't promoting human beings into God unless you look at even you could make the argument that Christianity did that.
Well, that's true.
But usually in most religions, we don't see humanity being promoted to this place of godship. And that's sort of what our superheroes do, don't they?
Yeah, kind of. I would take, somebody like Spider-Man or kind of people who have become mutants as almost like demigods.
Right.
Rather than, and so they're in this weird space between human and between God.
They almost are, but they are that by their own making. In all historical ones, it's because a god comes down to be with a human, and then you get this, So I don't know.
You get like freak accidents creating them, and it might actually say something interesting about our theology if we see this kind of creation of godlike powers coming from an anonymous source without method, without reason, without logic, without any kind of plan, almost.
But then you also get the ones like Batman and Daredevil who make themselves, or Iron Man, who make themselves into these demigods.
Right. And what kind of personality do you have to turn yourself into a demigod?
Well, they see themselves as hero. Well, let's say they see themselves as saviors, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and you see that really clearly with Superman, and really with most of your superhero groupings and individuals.
Well, with
have a savior component, a very strong.
Absolutely. Savior component. Well, even the self-made ones like Green Arrow and Daredevil, you can literally, even in the current way that they're presenting them on television, and they say flat out that they're here to save their town. That's what they are about.
I would almost want to nuance that a little bit and to parse it a little bit, instead of saying that they're saviors, to say that they're there to fix a problem, to try to solve the problem of evil.
I mean, I think that's semantics, particularly when they literally say, "I am here to save my city."
No,
those are direct quotes.
But that's my point, though, is that our idea of saving is fixing something. Our idea of a savior is someone who comes and fixes something.
Gotcha.
And so what I want to do is say that maybe that's not actually what a savior or saving actually is, but that's the way we've so conceived of it, that our superheroes are now reflecting this back to us. And so we get this very kind of twisted cycle where we understand saviors as these kind of powerful fixers who come in and make everything better. And it's almost always through violence.
I think that's a real problem that we need to talk about. But I tell you what, I think it also ties back to, it's interesting to think about that's what the gods of our creation have become.
Yeah.
That it's about fixing things. And maybe that ties back to why all of our gods now are humans.
Ooh, that's an interesting idea. Say more, because I don't know where you're going. That sounds really...
We're going to leave it right there. We're going to take a break. We're going to drop some tunes in.
You're going to leave me hanging?
Yes.
What have you been doing? Watching comic book movies with cliffhangers?
This is the classic Ryan Seacrest end of the segment hanger, just put your toes right over the edge and say, okay, we'll be back.
Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus, won't you
round 2 of the Moonshine Jesus Show. So, David, I guess what I was trying to get at is that it's interesting that our new superheroes.
No, wait, time out.
Yeah.
First of all, when you come back after a cliffhanger, you have to say last time on Moonshine Jesus Show.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Wait a minute. Stop. We're going to stop right here.
Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Won't you shine a light?
Last time on the Moonshine Jesus Show. No, all right. No. Sorry about that. It was too good to not go back to that. So listen, what my thought was just that you were bringing out the point that these superheroes, possibly gods, now save for that them means fixing it, which isn't really what it necessarily has meant through different religions with gods and stuff.
Right.
And so I was just off the top of my head saying, that's interesting that's where we've ended up, and that for the first time we're also having these demigods that humans are making of themselves, and that means, or is that connected to the fact that they save things by fixing it? It's a very human way of understanding it.
Absolutely. I think it's a really insightful thought.
Well, thank you. I just think
I was expecting you to elaborate on that.
No, I think it's very curious. I really do. I think maybe it speaks to.
But I think,
I actually think it speaks to. I think it goes even deeper, because all of these superheroes, at least the mass majority of them, created by men who tend to want to fix things.
Right.
I think it's a masculine. Obviously there's never just cut and dry, but there is this kind of thing.
Often from a place of trauma,
right,
and a sense of loss, and an inability to handle that loss in some way. And so the answer to that pain and suffering and trauma is to try to fix it for everybody else, so no one else will ever have to experience pain, suffering, or trauma. And we accomplish that by beating the crap out of people.
Right. And that was actually
very clearly in Daredevil.
Yeah, and that was actually my problem with the first Superman, the most recent Superman, that was the solo movie that preceded the Batman versus Superman.
Man of Steel.
The Man of Steel. I had a massive problem with it because they set him up intentionally, visually, as a Christ figure, but he solved problems with violence. And I was like, that is messed up.
Right, because there's that moment where he floats up into the sky cruciform, right? Right before
massively. Legs crossed even.
Crap out of people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so basically you're saying, like, hey, I'm being crucified, now I'm going to kick your butt, which is kind of really bad theology. So when you set up somebody like Superman...
Kind of really bad theology.
Well, I mean, technically bad theology, but there's a lot of that theology within Christianity of a violent God and a vengeful God. I mean, that's not something that's necessarily uncommon, but yeah, I would.
But when you're relating it back to a Christ figure, that's my problem. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
but and so it becomes this interesting dance. What would a superhero look like that was theologically accurate?
I don't think we'd call them superheroes. I don't think we'd call them superheroes.
Exactly. Because it's not about fixing stuff.
No,
it's not about being super.
No, it's about teaching. It is about the betterment of humanity, but it's about the betterment of humanity through community and compassion and relationship.
Being more fully human, being more engaged with those around you, like working together to solve problems. I mean, so many of your superheroes are solo actors, and even when they get together, there's like massive egos that get in the way of everything.
Yeah. Batman, from the moment that they formed the Justice League, started figuring out how to take each of them down individually if everything ever went wrong. I mean, that just tells you something right there.
Yeah, you can't really build trust with someone if you're planning on how to destroy them.
That's exactly it. Yeah, so we can form a new Justice League, except it would be like biblical Justice League. You have Captain Compassion and Dr. Love and
no, see, I went immediately to like Ehud, the left-handed assassin in Judges. Like, I would totally want him on my team. only reason I know that rare, odd biblical reference is because I'm left-handed. It's like the only reference to a left-handed person in the Bible that I remember, and he was an assassin. I was like, yes.
Well, of course, left-handed was bad, so of course he was an assassin.
So, are there examples? So we've compared superheroes to Greek demigods and the pantheon of gods. Like, are there examples of gods who use their power not for capriciousness, not for their own gain, and not to try to fix things through violence? Because that's primarily the way that we see that kind of God being employed in our imaginations. And let's be honest, Christian tradition has employed Jesus and, the Trinity and God in that way as well, right?
Yeah, they have, but I think that if you isolate the historical person of Jesus,
right,
that is an example of, if someone's using that for violence, they're just manipulating it. It's not real. You know what I mean? It doesn't actually connect back to the story there.
Right, but it's certainly a part of Christian history, but it's
but that goes back to the
the
fact that it's part of Christianity really doesn't. That, don't you think that it relates back to this judgmental God and not so much Christ?
Yeah, definitely. Although there were moments where Christ could be mean-spirited, I never saw him like physically attacking people, and Christ was always trying to bring people together, especially those on the margins who were oppressed, who were kind of beat up, who were marginalized.
Right.
That ethic was always bringing people together and showing them their own humanity, and helping them see their own humanity in deeper, more profound ways. And I feel like churches do their best work when they do that. Yeah. Even if people have disparate beliefs and backgrounds and experiences, to be able to bring them together so they can see one another as humans and to enter more deeply in their humanity.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes complete sense. Yeah. So where are you going to go with that?
I think that's why you have to focus less on fixing things and more on being with people. That's the example we have in the Bible, right? Of the Paraclete, the one who comes alongside us. Right. I think, and we see this in our mission work, and we see this in all kinds of ways that the Christian church often, especially the white Protestant Christian church, has often viewed itself as a kind of savior.
Oh, absolutely.
It is to go into the world and to fix stuff. Right. And that creates real problems, more problems than it fixes.
You actually don't end up having justice when you do that.
Right.
Justice is about fixing the system and not perpetuating the system, which when you come in to save someone, all you're doing is perpetuating the system. You've got to come in and stand beside them, like you were saying, and listen and say, okay, I have access to this. You tell me, how do we collectively use that to fix things, to change it, to make it more justice oriented?
We never have a sit down with many of our superheroes and be like, how can we best utilize these things?
That's right.
This power that you have, how is this? And then I think that's kind of probably the premise for a civil war, is that once you have that conversation, you have a massive fight about it.
Right.
Because people don't want to give up that power and not be in control and be something other than an individual savior.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. You know what? Probably a good place to leave it for this time. So we're going to try something new on this next end. We're going to drop the hashtag game, not because the listeners aren't doing well with it, because they're
our fault.
They're fabulous, amazing.
Our fault.
Yeah, we kind of aren't very good at it. We get caught up in 100 other things, and we don't make it as effective. But we think we have something to replace it with. You'll see on the other side that probably may end up being just as much fun, and you can pick on us at the same time. So it could be fun.
Hello and welcome to round 3 of the Moonshine Jesus Show. This portion of our show was previously known as Good News, Bad News, or Good News, Worst News, and previously known as our hashtag game.
Yes.
And now we are changing it up again because apparently we believe in reincarnation, and it's to ask us anything. It's a chance for our listeners and people who read our blogs to ask us anything, right, Mark?
Absolutely. And don't
So
worry, don't worry if it's a really hard question, we won't answer it.
We might save it for a full show.
That's exactly
We
it.
got some actually really, in the past hour since we started recording, we actually got some great questions.
Yes, we did.
That would actually make for some really good substantive discussions during a full show. Particularly some of the ones on LGBT issues that are coming up. Actually, we've got a show that we're thinking about doing for the beginning of May. That'd be great for us. So we'll address everything that we get asked that we can. But right now, you already answered one question that we got. Why did you see Dawn of Justice twice? Which is fantastic.
It's a great question.
Actually got news. We actually got news in our questions, right?
We do. I mean, we've been recording here for about an hour or so we haven't been paying attention to the news. One of the questions from Laura Pert on Facebook, she asked, do you support Bernie's visit to the Vatican? And we were like, Bernie's not really going to the Vatican, is he?
And the reason why you say that is regardless of how you feel about Bernie's politics or the presidential election cycle right now, it's a striking thing to be invited to the Vatican
in the middle of a
an
campaign.
Election campaign. To me, I'm not a Vatican expert or anything like that, but I think that's pretty darn striking and something that should make us go, huh, what exactly does this mean? Like clearly the Pope has something to do with this decision in some way, right?
Oh, he has to, absolutely. He's going to ultimately have some say in who's coming. So yeah, I mean, it is sort of it's as close to the Pope saying this is my choice as the Pope's ever been.
But that's
it's an endorsement of sorts.
Is that appropriate for the Pope to do that? I mean, certainly he's the head of a state.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's been invited to speak at the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, they did work kind of hard to say, let's find the correct category for this person's, expertise and put them in there.
He's not giving the homily at Mass.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, for me, I think it's great, honestly. I love it.
I think it's something that all Christians should pay attention to because it says something interesting about the dynamics between politics and Christianity.
It really does.
All right, so what's our next question here?
I think you had a pretty good one.
Yeah, okay, so this is from Tana Rose Cheryl. What are your thoughts on removing kids from all or part of the service? If it's okay to remove them, what's the cutoff age for transitioning them? And how do you address kids in the middle of worship? All right, Mark, you've been a senior pastor. You've had this issue. You're also a parent. What do you do?
I encourage children during the worship service, and if kids are loud or crying or laughing or whatever, I try to, if it's such that it's calling other people's attention to it, I try to talk about the life that it brings to the community, how important it is, that how real a child can be, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned from what it looks like to worship and be together in community. I don't remove them.
Yeah. So I've been in churches that do it both ways, and both have their pluses and minuses in a way. For me, as an Episcopalian, as a priest, I think if you do remove the kids, they got to come back for communion. I want my kids to have the experience of taking communion with the body of Christ. Well, that's really important as formation for me.
And from a theological standpoint, it's not communion if the whole body isn't.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I think it depends on your church and what your church is doing. I think the most important thing is kids don't feel excluded. Yeah. So if you are removing them, that your programming for them is high quality and really engaging and age appropriate. So if they are out of the service, that it's not like, oh, well, we just don't want you. It's that we have something very special planned for you, so they feel valued and a part. So, but my kids have mostly been in service for most of their lives. They've mostly been a part of all their service, and that creates some stress for the parents.
Sure.
This is true. But yeah, I will say that as a priest, you do occasionally preach sermons with your children in the pews, and they're like,
they know they can get away with stuff then.
They get away with stuff then, and it becomes very distracting sometimes because you want to go, whoa, stop doing that. Anyway.
All right. Did you have another good question?
I think I did. Hang on. Let me open
I felt like you had one more good one before we do our closing question.
I did have one more good one. It was actually the only one.
I know. Why do we never see baby pigeons?
Oh, you're from Kathleen Falsani, Posley. Why do we never see baby pigeons, Mark? I think
because they don't fly.
Because they don't fly. Or are they like the baby version of Superman and they arrive via Krypton in a small pod?
Or are they born full size?
Maybe they are born full size.
Maybe we're seeing them, but we don't realize we're seeing them because they're full size.
Or yeah, probably I've just never tried to look for. I mean, I've never actually seen a baby bird. So you know,
oh really? Wow, that's weird. I mean, that's perfectly normal, David. It's normal.
I mean, I may have eaten baby birds, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's what we call Cornish game hens. We used to call baby chickens Cornish game hens. They're delicious too. Oh, sorry, sidetrack. Okay, final question. Are you ready?
All right, final question.
Final question is: This is from Stefan Vermetti.
Right.
The question came via Facebook, but on Twitter he is @Rev_Vermetti, and that's VERMETTE. His question for us, David, and I'm going to put this in your lap because I think you're the expert here. Do you think you will have a regular schedule for the Moonshine Jesus show soon?
I mean, it really depends on if you're the
It depends. That's the answer right there. It really depends.
Are you the kind of person to see things half full or half empty? Like, if you're an optimist, then yes, we're going to have a regular schedule. If you're a pessimist, no, probably not. We're going to have a couple here and there.
Oh, that's the perfect way to end the show. Let's give them a little bit of what they'd much rather have, some tunes to close out with. And hey, listen, we're going to see you all next week whenever we record. Probably we're sort of until it happens, you don't know if it's happened or not happened. So
it's the mystery. It's all things shrouded.
It is the mystery. It's living in the mystery. And look, we all
live into the question. Live into the question.
And speaking of questions, feel free at any point to shoot us AMA questions for next week's show. In the meantime, enjoy the tunes, and we'll see you soon.
Go to heaven, your liver to hell. Your mind can't believe that they planned this so well. Moonshine and Jesus, yes, that is the way to get us to give up our souls every day.